Tim Ballard is hailed as a hero and a man of controversy. Joining me today at the media line, the man who just went into Syria to save Syrian children. Thank you so much for taking time.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, truly.
Going into Syria is no easy feat these days. And to save children at a time when everyone is looking at Syria and trying to understand the sectarian strife and what's happening, share with us what you went through. And of course, how did this all begin?
Well, it began because we watch carefully for when children are being beat up, and we don't care ethnicity, religion, creed, nationality. We don't care. It doesn't matter. Too often these days, children are getting beat up and slaughtered, and no one's reporting it. So we have to be extra careful. So what happened was we were actually in weeks ago we were in Latin America doing an operation, and the conflict with Iran flared up, and the battle and the bombs, and I sent two of my guys. I said, just go whenever there's a conflict. The last to be thought of, the last to be remembered are the children on either side, whatever side. So just go out there and tell them you're here. And they went and they met the right people, some IDF folks, and so they made relationships. We came back. It was divine. We didn't know that a few weeks later, July 13th, 14th was going to happen, and boom, Christian and Druze cities just get terrorized. We're talking just terror like you can't believe. Babies being thrown off of roofs, sex slave markets. 200 kids immediately disappear into a sex slave market. That's what ISIS, that's what the jihadists do. Beheadings and rapes. It's horrifying. The worst things. And we have a lot of experience in this. I ran operations between 2017 and 2019 in the Nineveh Plains in northern Iraq when ISIS occupied Mosul, and they were doing the same to Christian and Yazidi women and children. So we just when it happened, we jumped on a plane. We got the call and said, look, we're at desperation point. No one's doing anything significant enough to save these people. They're going to die. So we jumped on a plane, got the call on Sunday, jumped on a plane, and just came out. And that's what we do. We come out, and we know once we get there, God will give us the rest. And that's exactly what happened.
You didn't go in solo, you went in with the Israel Defense
Of course,
Forces.
yes.
And explain the operation, what you can share, because these things are very tactical, they're complex. You're going through terrain that is very difficult. And I think the audience needs to understand, what does that mean?
Well, yeah, the truth is, until you get on the ground, you can't even know exactly what you're going to do. I've learned through experience, you're not going to make a plan from back home. So we got out here, and the very first thing we did was we have to understand the Jewish people, understand what their philosophy is, what their foundation is, why this is happening, why they're being targeted. So we spent I don't think we slept for the first 2 days. We just visited every Druze village and city in Israel, and they're beautiful. And the first thing I noted, which was a story that you wouldn't expect the way the Western media is telling it, is they love Israel and Israel loves them. They are soldiers in the IDF, the Druze, right? They're represented in the Knesset. People do need to realize 20% of the Knesset is minority represented. It's a pluralistic society, very much so. And I just found that so interesting. Like, everywhere we went, the IDF showed up to escort us to the next village, and they would take us to the Druze leaders, and they would hug and drink coffee and tea. And I'm like, you guys love each other. I would think you hate each other if I believe what the Western media is saying, because Israel's supposed to be a bunch of land grabbing, predatory, pedophiles. So I love to see that, because now I realize who my partners are going to be. Right? 'Cause you got to be. The Middle East is so complex. You can't understand it unless you get here. That's why I tell the Western media, don't even talk about it until you come here first and spend 20 hours at least studying it, and then come here, then talk. Otherwise, you might be doing severe damage, and they are doing severe damage.
So tell me how this all started, because you've had this in your craw to come, get the IDF involved, and get over there.
Yeah. So we know that we have the skill set to figure it out. I've been doing this for over 20 years, so I'm confident in our team. But we just what you can't do from home is understand the ground game. You got to get the intelligence. The Jewish people met with the Sheikh Tarif, beautiful, beautiful man, like just spiritual. Like, I can't believe I'm very spiritually sensitive because I have to be, or I'll die. Okay, so I'm talking to this guy, and we feel like we know each other. In fact, halfway through the conversation, he stops. He's like, "Who are you? I know you. I know you." I'm like, "Oh, have you seen Sound of Freedom?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Oh, well, I guess we know each other from a previous life or something," because that's how we both felt. So once we figured that out, and then I start learning about all these Druze folks who are running the intel for the Druze people, they're all IDF soldiers. Like, that's interesting. Oh, we love Israel. Israel loves us. Okay, now I got my partnership. I got the alliance I need. It's going to be Druze, IDF, and us going in, and so through an act of God, really, we were able to get permission for the gates to be open because that's what we needed. The gates to be open. Another providential thing. I say providential. Right before I made my first plea, because I had to wake up the West because they're not even talking about what's happening. So I just put out horrific footage, and it broke my heart to do it. But I had to show them this is happening.
Well, let's stop on that moment because
Yeah.
there's a problem here. There's a war going on between Israel and Gaza. People see the picture of what's happening in Gaza in terms of children, some of it true, some of it not true. And then all of a sudden you go into Syria and you're seeing something so horrific.
And also,
But so,
yeah.
Tim, you need to share what you saw.
Oh, horrific! And you can look on my social media, and I'll share it with you. We're getting footage every day. We have assets on the ground in Shueva, and they're sending us every day. I just saw this horrific image yesterday of a jihadist forcing this sweet old Christian woman to convert in exchange for life saving medical treatment that she needed. I mean, it's gross.
Has it stopped? I think that the world is getting this picture that all of a sudden there was this terrible, what one would call a massacre,
Mhm.
and that it stopped, and that there's an element of the security forces trying to comply with the United States and other world leaders. Do you feel that this is something that's happening, or the picture is really different on the ground?
The true picture is, yeah, the mass slaughtering, which was just the most horrific thing you can think of. It's they're animals. They're not even humans. So just the worst things possible: sex slavery, child rape, beheadings, everything, tossing babies off roofs. I have all the footage. Okay, and so that major slaughtering, they're now in phase two, which is starve them out. We killed who we could, and now we're going to starve them out. They've poisoned or destroyed their water supply. They have no means of getting like regular provisions in. So they're at the point of it's a besiegement, right? And so it's now just let them die, and that's what's going to happen if we don't start getting things straight quick.
Okay, so the who is the who. Let's talk about the who in terms of who here is the oppressor and who are the oppressed.
So it's somewhat complex right now. Everyone's lying. Everyone's telling different versions of the story. What we know for sure is it's jihadist, political Islam, whatever you want to call it. It's not a religion. I'll tell you that much. It's a gross ideology that says you should kill people who are infidels, who don't believe the way you do, and they just get off on being animals and doing whatever they can. So who was it? Depends who you talk to, right? Were the Syrian official Syrian forces there to protect, or did they go to protect and then they got too excited with jihad? Or what's the president doing right now? I don't want to say too much because I want everyone to have room to maneuver properly. So it's all theoretical really at this point anyway, but it's best not to talk too much about that because I don't want to lock anybody in. I want people to have the opportunity to make the right decision, and that decision presented itself. I say providentially because just 2 hours before I did my first plea to the public, President Trump tweeted out, and I was not working in collusion. People are going to think we were because we are friends, but we weren't. He didn't know we were out here. And he tweets out, "Hey, remember the Abraham Accords? President Shah, everybody else who hasn't signed, it's a really good idea." So that gave me a perfect talking point to say, guys, listen, you want peace? There's no peace through raping children and tossing them off roofs. There's no peace through beheading women and raping them and creating child sex slave markets. There is peace through trade and commerce. Choose the trade and commerce path. Choose the Abraham Accords. So I'm hoping it will give everyone an opportunity to do the right thing and give them a pretense to do so.
But Tim, that actually is sort of the $1 million question. On one hand, are you boosting up al-Shara and trying to build him up and trying to create an Abraham Accords ahead of the time that he's actually capable of stabilizing Syria? And is there room for the Americans to come in because the Americans have wanted to stay out of wars?
Right. It's difficult because you say who is President El Shaddad? Like he's made overtures to the West that he wants to align with the West. We'd rather him do that than align with some other guys in the East. Okay, uh, so that would be a good thing. And if you think oust him. Well, who will replace him? It could be even worse, right? And so you're right. It's a very difficult sensitive question that President Trump has to determine what to do and how to maneuver. We just don't want to get in the way of that by getting too political because we're not politicians. Like at the end of the day, we're just trying to rescue kids. Politics comes into that because it gets in the way of us rescuing kids. So that's our only reason for even putting our toe in that ugly water. But in the meantime, we play with the conditions we have and find a way around whatever situation we have politically to rescue God's children. And that's what we're doing right now.
Speaking of rescuing children, Tim put something and he posted on his social media about a 5-year-old girl dying in his arms. And it's a very difficult thing to witness. You're a father of 9. And I think it's really important to understand what happened there.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone's actually watched a child die. It's the worst thing. Um, Die in pain and nothing you can do. It's probably the worst thing in on earth or hell to have to watch and helpless and the mother's right there and I don't even know what to do. There's no words and this child just dying. Um, that's one child. The other child I came across lived, um, but her whole face is gone. She watched her family be gunned down by the jihadists, and they tried to kill her, but they missed, aimed, I guess, and the bullet came through here and just ripped off her face. And she's gonna live, but she's gonna live in hell without. And she keeps asking. She watched her parents be killed, and she keeps asking us, "Can you call my dad? I miss my dad." And we're not showing her a mirror. She doesn't know, and she's just a sweet little girl, and she keeps asking for her parents, and because she hasn't processed. She doesn't know what death is, so she doesn't understand that they're not coming back. It's horrifying. Okay, and then we get this beautiful blessing of we're deployed inside of Syria. I don't know, was it yesterday or 2 days ago? My body doesn't know what time it is. There's no time for me right now. And this beautiful girl, this little Drew's baby, and I'm a very spiritually sensitive person, or else, like I told you, I would die if I wasn't, because this is a spiritual war, and if you don't understand that side of it, you're going to lose. And so I have this little child in my arms, just out of Shueva, and I'll give you the pictures. What I'm telling you is going to sound crazy, but it's true, and it's all documented. Multiple witness. IDF was all around me. I brought this little baby in my arms, 2 months old. Got her into the medical tent that the IDF had already set up, and she's screaming in pain, which any parent knows how horrifying it is when your child is in pain and there's not much you can do. And so I got to her mom, and I gave her to her mom, and then I knelt down behind her, and she was up on her mom's shoulder, and I just started looking at her, and I have a lot of experience with children, babies in trauma. That's all I've done for 30 years, and I've never seen a baby, even a healthy baby, do this. She locked eyes with me for probably 4 minutes straight, and she starts smiling. And here I'm thinking I'm here to comfort her, but she's actually comforting me. I had just watched a child die not 10 hours before. So I needed some hope. And I found it in the eyes of this little girl. And she just, all my guys were just like jaw dropped. Like the idea of soldiers jaw dropped, because she just like this, locked in, peace, smiling, and then just staring at me and talking to me. Like, I'm not embarrassed to say it because that's the world I live in. She's talking to me, and she's telling me there's hope. She's telling me that's what I'm getting. Like, you guys got me out. You can get the other ones out too. Like, follow how I got out. How did I get out? And I'm not going to get into more details, but I won't reveal the plans. But I got the plans. The download came to me as I was looking at her. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been here before. I've been to northern Iraq. I did this before. This is going to work this time. We have to change a few things. But this little girl's talking to me and comforting me when I'm supposed to be comforting her. And go on Tim Ballard 89. Go to my. So I have the pictures up. Anyone can look at her eyes and know that it's the eyes of angels talking to us, and that gave me hope. And I actually left Syria happy, unbelievably, because of that little girl. And she's safe. She's gonna live. Like, thank God, this one's gonna live. Like, we're 1 for 3, but one's gonna live, and others are gonna live. And I thank God for that moment, because those are the moments I need, or I'm gonna die, if spiritually or something. And I know it was a gift from God to tell us it's gonna work. Stay with us, stay with us, stay with us. It was beautiful, beautiful moment. And after that, we spun up phase 2, and we're in phase 2 right now, which I'm not gonna talk about but it's going to work. It's very dangerous, but it's effective and it's going to work. And we have all the support we need from the governments that are involved. So
Tim, these are very difficult stories to share, and there were many children that are waiting to be saved. Can you give a sense of what that looks like? The Syrian population was about 23 million, and then almost half of it was displaced over the years of war. There were many, many orphans. It's really a horrific picture. So, in trying to save the few, which is really what we're talking about, can you try to paint a picture of these numbers if they're even known?
yeah, I mean, look, I was in northern Iraq during the Syrian civil war. We were taking care of the minority Christians and other groups that were flooding into Erbil, flooding into northern Iraq. So I've been dealing with Syria for quite some time. It's just another part of the same conflict. And look, the numbers are significant. There's 700,000 Druze people in Syria. There's about 200,000 in Israel itself. Um, and it's a significant population. And I love these people. That's why I got to know them. And I just fell in love with them. They're beautiful people and they will stand and die for Christians or Jews or, anybody. They will. That's who they are. They're very spiritual, purposeful people. And I want to just do what we can to help them and help their children. And that's a lot of people. 700,000 are on the verge of death right now by starvation or other means. And the jihadis, they're animals, so they could activate again at any time and go in and do what they want. And so we're seeking a political solution and praying that those in charge will do the right thing. In the meantime, we're going to keep doing what we're doing. And we have a plan and I don't care if it's just, look, we always say for the one, I don't care if it's just one. If we spend $1 million and get one kid out, I will be 1,000% satisfied. It was worth it. I think of my own child. What would I do for my child? I would empty my bank account. I'd sell my house. I'd sell my anything. And so you have to look at these children like that and it's worth it.
These children are treated in Israeli hospitals, but what happens to them after? Do you follow the stories?
Oh yeah, no, no, no. Once they come into our sphere, they never leave, and we have lots of options. We're also experts in aftercare, so we know exactly what to do, and where they'll end up. Of course, we want to keep them with their families as best we can, and there's lots of options. Whether they're going to stay in Israel, whether someday they can return to a peaceful Syria, or any number of places. Look, we rescued over 10,000 Yazidis and Christians out of northern Iraq, and we had to move. Their villages were leveled, so we took them to Australia. We just kept calling every country, and Australia said, "We'll take them." Beautiful Australia. Who would have thought? They brought them all in. They have these beautiful villages, and they're living, productive lives, and so that's what we do. We won't stop until we find them homes where they can be happy and thrive. And it's easy with these people because they're very industrious people. Anybody would want, any country would want them because they work hard, they believe in God, they're good people. They're great. They're great people to have in your country.
A movie comes out and it's all about your story. Simultaneously, there are charges against you as well.
False
Uh,
charges, yes.
and how did you live through two sides of these stories simultaneously? They're both very different. They're
Yeah.
both very loud. They're both very public.
Yeah. Well, the part that people don't realize, it's obvious. Now we've won already. People don't realize that because on July 18th, the judge ruled and destroyed my enemies, right? This was a massive lawfare akin to what Trump went through. And it's connected to Trump. So
Well,
people,
please explain what happened.
yeah. So at the end of Sound of Freedom, 100 million people saw it, $350 million box office. I got very little of that money because I made a bad deal. That I didn't know what I was doing, but no blame to the producers, whatever. People thought I was very rich, okay? But they're also, I wasn't the only one sued, right? My wife was sued for sexual assault. Uh, my friends, my Angel Studios, right? The producers, Vrastogee, everybody. But it's lawfare, right? So what happened was I'm at Bedminster with Trump and his people and me are talking and like, hey, will you run for the Senate seat in Utah? That just was open. I don't want to do that. I do not want to do that. I can't do my job if I do that. But they wanted me to, and I was like, okay, I'll test the waters. They were asking me to help Trump campaign because his number one issue happened to be my number one issue: trafficking at the border. I'm an expert. I spent 10 years as an undercover operator on that border. I know what's happening. I knew it was happening. So that was a huge threat, right? because that was the thing that's gonna get Trump elected, and I was gonna be his point man for that. So looking back, it should have been obvious. I got a phone call the day after I announced on the Sean Spicer show that I was gonna run for Senate, and I was told that a certain political hit group, I won't name them right now because things are getting hot for them right now, and I need to let investigators do their thing. That $10 million had just been dropped to destroy me, and I was like, "What?" I'm naive at this to lawfare. Really, haven't really thought much about. But what is it going to look like? And the guy told me it's going to look like a bag of bricks. 3 weeks later, boom, defamation. Boom, defamation. It was brilliantly strategized. They got all they got my church. They got my friends in the media in politics. It was all this. It was a mass extortion campaign. It was, if you don't, then this will happen. My best friends start turning on me, but they're the ones not getting sued. My wife goes in defense of me right away. 3 days later, she gets sued for sexual assault. It was a warning, but my wife, they messed with the wrong person. There's no one more God fearing than my wife on the planet. And she's just like, really? You think I'm going to walk away? Boom, we charged it in together. But the point of lawfare is they win if I die. If I survive to tell the story, they're destroyed, and they're all about to be destroyed in ways I can't even control. There's a scriptural concept that says you dig a pit for your neighbor, but you end up falling in it. So their plan would have been brilliant had I fallen, had I killed myself, which I believe they wanted me to do. Had I ran away to Alaska and started a charter fishing company, or did whatever, but I didn't, because this mission is too important to me to rescue kids, and I was not going to fail these kids. So we kept rescuing, and all the while exposing. There's a docuseries coming out on this. It's Sound of Freedom 2 is this story. So they're going to be exposed in ways that it's going to be terrifying for them, and that's their fault. That's their fault, not mine, for being so stupid and unethical and unchristlike to participate in this lawfare out of fear. There's a saying I want everyone to know: if you fear man, become a coward. Fear God and become a hero. And they chose to fear man, and they're cowards. And I feel bad for them. What a horrible life to live as a coward. But I feared God, my wife feared God, and we triumphed. And we're still here rescuing kids like never before. So it's all going to come out. It's funny that when I won in court in Utah, the media in Utah, who's owned and controlled by the very people who are trying to keep me looking bad, because if I'm guilty, if I'm innocent, they're guilty, right? And so they'll do anything. So I literally win in court, and they spin and lie to make me look like the bad guy. Like, it's unbelievable. Don't trust any news outlet, right? None of them are Matthew 18 compliant.
You did lose something over this. You lost the title of your organization that you founded. You had a lot of press following you on this story. Uh, is there damage control over what happened?
It's such an interesting question. I thought I lost everything, but thinking I lost everything is what gained me everything. Because when you're stripped down naked and destroyed, and you only have God, in my case, Jesus Christ, when that's all you have, you get it in abundance. He comes in abundance, and I'm more faithful. I'm closer to my wife than ever in my life. I can't get my hands off this. It's like we're on a honeymoon every day. Because of this, you go through this together, and then when you make it, a spiritual rebirth happens. And I love where I'm at, and everything I lost, I'm going to get right back. And it's like the story of Job. It's already happening. Just watch what happens in the next few months. All the people that did this to me, they're going to lose everything, and I'm going to have everything back.
Your background, political science, you went to Brigham Young University. Trying to understand, how did you get to this point? Most people don't wake up and say, I'm going to be a hero and save lots of children around the world. And even from here, you're heading on to another mission.
Yeah.
So what drives you to and wait every day when you wake up to do this?
Such a good question. So I was like 8 years old, and this was in me. God put this in me. I knew that I was going to do this. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know it was child crimes, but I knew that I was going to be. My parents will tell you, I wore a Superman cape every day of my life. Okay, I don't know why this, and so it just it came to fruition, and once I got in, I worked 12 years in the government, and I recognized I can't do what I want to do because there's so many rules and bureaucracy and jurisdictional restraints. And it's like I can't have jurisdictional restraints when kids are being moved in 3 countries in a month. Right? It's not going to work. So if you see the film Sound of Freedom, Have you seen the film?
I haven't seen
So,
it.
so go watch it, and it tells the story, the true story of what happened. I'm in Colombia. I lose my mandate, my jurisdictional mandate, because the case goes way outside of U.S. jurisdiction. And my boss says, "Come home." I'm like, "I'm about to rescue these kids." I call my wife. I got to come home. She's like, and my wife, like I said, next level God person, and she's like, just calmly, like, "Well, if you stay, you can rescue kids." I said, "Yeah, for sure." It's like, why are we having this conversation? Like, almost shamed me. Like, because Catherine, we have 6 kids, and I don't have no job if I stay here. And she's like, "Tim, you don't think God's going to take care of you if you're rescuing kids?" And we fought over it until she said these words. This is verbatim, by the way, because it pierced my heart. She said, "I will not let you jeopardize my salvation by not doing this." And I was like, "I'm staying." And the rest is in the film. We rescue 54 children and then start this mission. But the thing that really kept me going, because you get beat up, right? Like you said, a man of controversy. I will be a man of controversy for the rest of my life. If you believe in the spiritual war and you're saving God's children, children are the image of God. So the bad guys, the evil bad guys you can't see, if they want to punch God, they can't. So they're going to punch the closest thing to God, which is a child. That's the closest thing to the image of God. You're going to be controversial. Like, you're going to be lied about. You're going to be lawfared. I don't care anymore, because I know God's got me, and I'm going to keep going. And what really helps me is one of our very first rescues in February of 2014, we busted open a child trafficking ring in Haiti, rescued 26 kids. And my wife and I ended up adopting 2 of them. Okay. And they're beautiful kids. I love them. Some of them, I love them more than I love a couple of my biological kids. I won't say which ones, but I love these kids, right? There's no difference. It's a beautiful thing when you adopt, like, there's no difference. These are black kids from Haiti. They're the same to me. I love them, and they're happy. They're playing football, and my daughter's learning how to do hair, and I know the trajectory of their life, what it would have been. They would be dead or trafficked right now as orphans in Haiti, 100%. They were already being trafficked, and to see that instead they have this happy life, that's everyday hope. I look at them and say, if it could happen for them, it could happen for a kid in Syria, a kid in Gaza, a kid in Brazil. I've watched it happen. That means it's possible, and I'm going to make sure. And so it's just an everyday hope. I see my little boys Cole smile. I'm like, let's go. I got to go to the next trip, and they understand. I say, "I'm sorry I have to leave." "Oh, Dad, I'm glad you left to get me, so that's okay." It's a family mission. So
Everybody's on social media today. Everything's happening instantaneously. And if you look at the audience and you had just a sentence to say to them, because it's all about sound bites, what comes to your mind?
try to whole world, geopolitically or otherwise, through the eyes of a child. I don't carry anyone's water. I'm not a politician. I don't work for some media outlet that wants me to say this or that. I carry no one's water but God and children. And so I'm coming from a very pure place when I say this. See the world through the eyes of a child, and the whole world dynamic will change for you, and you'll get closer to truth. And when you don't do that, you make my job harder. When you lie about what's happening in Israel, when you lie about what's happening around the world, you make our job harder to rescue kids. So I plead with people, please, the kids can't talk, the kids can't riot, the kids can't march. So you have to be their voice and see the world through their suffering eyes. And now you can start making better policy decisions. And we should all it's the one thing we can unite on. Maybe it's the only thing left in the world of politics, right? Kids shouldn't be raped. Kids shouldn't be beheaded. We can all, except for the Islamists, the jihadists, okay? We'll deal with them in a different way. But we can all agree on this point. So let's come together on that and watch the world unify. That's my message.
Tim Ballard, much luck. Thank you for this time. And I wish you success on your next very important operation.
Thank you so much. Yeah, follow us right now, because we're heading to Latin America, and you're going to see a crazy op happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.